They tried to medicate me. I was exhausted. They wrongly diagnosed me. And when I asked them, how much lithium did you want to put me on exactly? It took them 4 days to answer because they were embarrassed about the amount, right? And I refused to take this, right? You understand that if I had taken the medication, I would not be here, and it would have been, he was deeply troubled. We miss him. We love his music, though.
Well, they would have Britney Spears too. I mean,
they would have Michael Jackson
or worse, yeah.
So look at what they did. Look at what they did to Britney. When she went in, she was tired, she was exhausted, she was in a bad way. But 10 years of that medication wrecked her brain. You can see it now.
Y'all, what if everything you thought you knew about Hollywood power was just the surface, and the real story was buried in silence, money, and control? Because what's being whispered right now isn't just another celebrity scandal. It's a full-blown system, and at the center of it, allegedly, is Britney Spears. For over a decade, she wasn't just a pop icon. She was trapped, controlled, monitored, every move watched, every dollar redirected. And now, with new files tied to Jeffrey Epstein surfacing, people are starting to connect dots that were never meant to be connected. We're talking about a conservatorship that allegedly wasn't just about protection, but profit. A system where insiders had access to millions, maybe even hundreds of millions, while the woman generating it all couldn't even control her own life. And then, the names start appearing. Kardashian family. Not rumors, connections. Business ties. Legal links. Shared networks. The same management. The same financial channels. And according to some claims, money that didn't just disappear, it moved. Quietly. Strategically. Allegedly. So now the question isn't just what happened to Britney. It's who benefited. Because if even a fraction of this is true, then this isn't just a tragedy. It's a system. And it's only just starting to crack open.
Oh, we're just chilling.
In our geriatric bed.
Yeah. This bed vibrates. What the fuck? What the fuck?
Also her assistant. A lot of things happened at those Epstein parties that can't really be described. Paris also took part in them, and she used to force me.
He got him. And he got him in multiple different areas. Look at this. So this has to do with somebody that was filing complaint against Maxwell that had all types of Kardashians.
Y'all thought the story ended when Britney Spears finally walked out of that courtroom free. But according to what's now being whispered behind the scenes, that might have just been the moment the real story started. Because the deeper you go, the darker it gets. Back in 2008, when Britney was placed under that conservatorship, the public was told a simple narrative. She needed help. She was unstable. This was for her own protection. But insiders and investigators now claim that what was happening behind closed doors looked nothing like protection and everything like control. Total control. Her money, her career, her voice. For 13 years, every deal, every check, every decision allegedly passed through a system she didn't control. And at the center of that system, according to reports, were two key figures, her father Jamie Spears, and a powerful Hollywood manager whose connections ran deeper than most people realized. That's where things start to shift. Because this wasn't just about one family anymore. This was about networks, financial pipelines, celebrity empires, and alleged connections that stretch far beyond what the public was ever meant to see. When documents and reports began resurfacing, especially around the time the Free Britney movement gained momentum, people started digging. Not casually, obsessively. And what they found kept leading back to the same place.
Taylor apparently is paying off, allegedly, some of Diddy's victims from this slush fund through
Lou Taylor, TriStar, and a web of high-level clients tied into the same system, including, allegedly, some of the most powerful names in entertainment. The Kardashian family. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because on the surface, everything looked normal. Business deals, brand expansions, legal partnerships. But court documents from 2020 to 2021 quietly revealed something most people missed. Lou Taylor wasn't just managing behind the scenes. She was officially connected to multiple Kardashian-related companies. That means if legal issues came up, she was the one handling them. And that's not a small detail. That's access. Access to information, access to finances, access to movement. And according to multiple online investigations and reports, this is where the allegations start to take a much darker turn. Because some claim that Britney's money she allegedly had no direct control over, didn't just sit in accounts. It moved. Through companies. Through management structures. Through channels that are now being questioned. Allegedly. And the numbers being thrown around? They're not small. We're talking about claims of $200 million, even $600 million, potentially circulating through systems connected to powerful celebrity ventures. Now pause for a second. Imagine generating that kind of wealth, but not being able to touch it, not being able to question it, not being able to stop it. That's not just exploitation. That's something else entirely. And what makes this even more unsettling is the timing. Because while the world was rallying behind the Free Britney movement, while millions were posting, protesting, demanding answers, some of the same figures being questioned were still moving freely within elite circles. Attending events, building brands, expanding influence, smiling for cameras, while a completely different narrative was quietly building underneath. And then came the next layer. The one that pushed this story from disturbing to explosive. Because just as these financial connections were being discussed, newly surfaced references tied to Jeffrey Epstein began pulling attention toward a much bigger question. What if this wasn't just about money? What if this was about a system designed to protect itself? A system where power, influence, and silence all worked together. A system where victims stayed quiet and those at the top stayed untouchable. At least, until now.
I'd mostly like to sue my family, to be totally honest with you. I also would like to be able to share my story with the world and what they did to me, instead of it being a hush-hush secret to benefit all of them. I want to be able to be heard on what they did to me. By making me keep this in for so long is not good for my heart. I've been so angry and I cry every day. It concerns me. I'm told I'm not allowed to expose the people who did this to me. For my sanity, I need you to the judge to approve me, do an interview where I can be heard on what they did to me. And actually, I have the right to use my voice and take up for myself. My attorney says I can't, it's not good. I can't let the public know anything they did to me. And by not saying anything is saying it's okay. I don't know what I said here. It's not okay. I don't want to interview. I'd much rather just have an open call to you for the press to hear, which I didn't know.
And just when it seemed like the financial trail couldn't get any darker, another layer started to emerge, one that shifted this from a money story into something far more disturbing. Because according to multiple reports and online investigations, the name Lou Taylor didn't just connect business dots, it connected people. Powerful people. The kind of people whose names don't usually show up in the same sentence as controversy, unless something has gone very, very wrong. At the center of these claims is the idea that TriStar wasn't just managing money, it was moving it. Quietly. Strategically. Through structures that made everything look clean on the surface, but allegedly hid something much bigger underneath. And this is where the alleged Kardashian connection becomes impossible to ignore. Because records from past legal filings show Lou Taylor linked to multiple ventures tied to Kim Kardashian, Kylie Jenner, and other brands under the Kardashian-Jenner empire. On paper, it looked like standard corporate handling. But critics say it gave her access to everything. Every transaction, every legal notice, every financial movement. And when you combine that level of access with a conservatorship controlling one of the biggest pop stars in the world, the questions start writing themselves. Because if Britney's finances were being controlled on one end and massive celebrity businesses were expanding rapidly on the other, people began asking a question no one wanted to say out loud. Was there a connection? Now, officially, nothing has been proven. But unofficially, the speculation exploded. Online communities, independent investigators, and even some journalists began pointing out patterns. Timing. Sudden growth. Cash purchases. Financial jumps that didn't quite line up with public narratives. And then came the number that changed everything. $600 million. Allegedly. That's the figure some claim could be tied to the movement of Britney's wealth through systems she didn't control. A number so massive, it doesn't just raise eyebrows, it shakes the entire narrative. Because this isn't just about missing money. It's about where it went. And who benefited. But just as this financial web was starting to unravel, another name entered the conversation, one that turned this from a Hollywood scandal into something much deeper. Sean Combs. Reports began surfacing suggesting that certain financial channels, including organizations tied to elite circles, may have been used in ways that weren't entirely transparent. Allegations of funds being routed, redirected, even used to quietly settle situations away from public eyes. Again, nothing confirmed. But enough smoke to make people look twice. And then came one of the most unsettling claims of all. A church. Not just any church, but one reportedly connected to Kris Jenner, where members allegedly contributed large monthly payments and percentages of their income. On the surface, it looked like faith. But critics questioned whether it was something else entirely. A financial funnel. A controlled environment. A place where money could move, without too many questions being asked. And when investigators started connecting that structure to the same network of names already under scrutiny, the story took on a whole new level of intensity. Because now, it wasn't just about Britney. It wasn't just about money. It was about a system that allegedly operated in layers, business, legal, personal, all overlapping in ways the public was never meant to fully understand. And just when people thought they had reached the bottom of it, the Epstein connection resurfaced. Because newly discussed filings and claims tied to Ghislaine Maxwell began referencing associations, relationships, and accusations that pointed toward elite social circles overlapping in ways that raised serious concerns. Victims speaking out, names being mentioned, connections being questioned. Not confirmed, but impossible to ignore. And suddenly, the story wasn't just about who made money. It was about who knew what was happening, and who stayed silent anyway. And just when it felt like the story couldn't get any heavier, it did. Because beneath all the numbers, the connections, the power plays, there was still one person at the center of it all, Britney Spears. And her voice. A voice that for years, the world barely heard. While headlines focused on breakdowns, paparazzi chaos, and public image, what was happening behind closed doors was something entirely different. Court statements, testimonies, and recorded hearings began revealing a reality that didn't match the narrative people had been fed for over a decade. Britney wasn't just struggling. She was allegedly being controlled. She described being put on medications she didn't want, being monitored constantly, being told what she could and couldn't do, not just professionally, but personally, who she could see, what she could say, even whether she could make decisions about her own body. And the most chilling part? She claimed she wasn't allowed to speak freely about it. Think about that for a second. One of the most famous women on the planet, allegedly silenced in plain sight. I just want to tell my story. It wasn't just a statement. It was a plea. And when those words finally reached the public, everything shifted. The hashtag Free Britney movement exploded, turning what was once dismissed as fan speculation into a global demand for answers. But even as the world started paying attention, the system around her didn't immediately fall apart. It resisted. It delayed. It denied. It protected itself. And that's what makes this next part so unsettling. Because while Britney was fighting to be heard, the same network of names tied to her conservatorship, directly or indirectly, continued operating at the highest levels of influence. Expanding brands, building empires, maintaining public trust. Including members of the Kardashian family, whose alleged connections through shared management and business structures kept resurfacing in discussions. Again, no direct confirmations, but enough overlap to make people question everything. Because if even a portion of these allegations hold weight, it suggests something much bigger than one legal arrangement gone wrong. It suggests a system that knew how to protect itself. A system where power wasn't just about fame, it was about control. Control over narratives, control over money, control over silence. And then there's the Epstein shadow. Because every time this story starts to settle, that name pulls it right back into the spotlight. Jeffrey Epstein. Not as a direct link that's been proven, but as a reminder of how deep elite networks can run. How influence can cross industries. How people in positions of power can remain untouchable until something breaks. And right now, something is breaking. More people are asking questions. More connections are being examined. More voices are refusing to stay quiet. But here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. We still don't have all the answers. We don't know exactly where the money went. We don't know who knew everything. And we definitely don't know how many pieces of this story are still hidden. What we do know is that a woman stood in court and said she felt controlled, silenced, and used. And for years, no one stopped it. So now the question isn't just about guilt. It's about accountability. Because if this was allowed to happen in front of the entire world, then what else has been happening that we haven't seen yet? And more importantly, who's next? And just like that, the silence doesn't feel like protection anymore. It feels like strategy. Because if even a fraction of these allegations are true, then what we're looking at isn't just a celebrity scandal. It's a system that knew exactly how to operate in the shadows while the world was distracted by headlines and headlines alone. Money moving without questions, voices being controlled without consequence, power protecting power at every level. And at the center of it all, a global superstar who stood in front of a court and said she felt used, silenced, and trapped while the machine around her kept running like nothing was wrong. That's not just disturbing, that's calculated. Now the files are resurfacing, the names are being mentioned, the connections are being questioned louder than ever. And suddenly, the same people who once seemed untouchable are being pulled into conversations they can't easily escape. But here's the real twist. What if this is only the part they couldn't hide anymore? What if the real story, the deeper layers, the bigger names, the darker transactions are still buried where no one has looked yet? Because history has already shown us one thing. These systems don't collapse overnight. They crack slowly, until something finally breaks them open. So now it's your turn to decide. Is this all coincidence, or is this the moment everything starts to unravel? Drop your thoughts below, because this story is far from over, and the next reveal might be the one they never wanted you to see.